Chapter 78. On the Day 5 of the festival we were at the newly completed Colosseum Tempest's pride and my latest passion project. A massive structure of stone, steel, and enchantment, the grand arena loomed before us like a sleeping dragon. It could comfortably seat 50,000 spectators, though judging by the noise echoing from the stands, it felt like twice that number had come to witness the first great Tempest tournament. A sleek roof extended in a U shape above the stands, shading the crowd from the direct sunlight. The design wasn't just functional, it was dramatic. The thin, membrane-like sheet stretched over a framework shaped like enormous dragon wings, each segment shimmering faintly under the morning light. In truth, I only had it built that way because I thought it looked cool. I wanted something ominous and grand, something that would make visitors from other nations stop and whisper, "That's Tempest for you." And judging by the crowd's reaction, it was working perfectly. People craned their necks upward, whispering excitedly, their voices overlapping in waves of awe. Some muttered that the roof resembled a dragon's wings mid-flight, others swore it symbolized my divine majesty as the demon lord of Tempest. I hadn't exactly intended it to be that symbolic, but, if it helped build the right atmosphere, I wasn't complaining. Some of the more eccentric residents of Tempest were practically vibrating with excitement. A few even bowed toward the structure, calling it an offering to their goddess. I decided to let them have their fun. It wasn't like I could explain, no, I just thought it looked awesome, without ruining the mood. The arena floor gleamed faintly under the morning light, a vast expanse of seamless stone that seemed both ancient and modern at once. The craftsmanship was impeccable, each enormous tile perfectly aligned, the faint lines between them almost invisible thanks to the cushioning material that filled the gaps. It wasn't just decoration. The hidden enchantments beneath each slab absorbed impact and repaired damage automatically, ensuring even the fiercest clashes wouldn't scar the battlefield. From the stands, the view was breathtaking, a wide, circular field of polished stone, surrounded by the hum of anticipation. The faint scent of earth and dust mixed with the crackle of magicules in the air, promising that today's battles would be far from ordinary. I had designed the arena in a hurry, but I was proud of the result. Regular rock is already hundreds of times harder than concrete, but what we used here was something far beyond that. Every slab was infused with dense layers of magicules, increasing its hardness to nearly 10,000 times that of normal stone. The floor extended 6 feet deep into the ground, each block seamlessly merged with the next. Not even a nuclear shelter could match its durability. I hadn't tested it personally, but according to reports from yesterday's qualifiers, the arena had already faced its first stress test. Apparently, a certain Chaos Princess decided to unleash a spell that shook the entire Colosseum. Thankfully, it wasn't nuclear magic. If it had been, we'd be rebuilding the city instead of holding a tournament. At the time, I thought the faint tremors were just my imagination. But when the report reached me, I could only sigh. Still, there was a silver lining. The qualifiers hadn't drawn a huge crowd, so damage control was easy. However, once word spread about a mysterious warrior who could supposedly set the whole battlefield ablaze, the excitement exploded overnight. Now, with today's main tournament about to begin, the entire Colosseum was packed. The anticipation was so thick it practically vibrated in the air, exactly what I wanted, though perhaps a bit too much attention for my taste. Back to the main topic. Around this massive rock floor arena, I'd installed 2 layers of defense barriers, each serving a distinct purpose. The first was an enormous, intricately woven magic circle that covered not only the entire floor but also extended beneath the stands. It was designed to stabilize the terrain and absorb impact, so the arena could double as a battlefield for large-scale training or mock wars later on. I wanted something durable and reusable, not a one-time showpiece. The second was a visible circular zone about 150 feet in diameter where the matches themselves would take place. The barrier shimmered faintly, like a glass dome of pale light, allowing spectators to see everything clearly while ensuring that not even a stray spark of magic escaped its borders. Together, these 2 barriers formed an unbreakable fortress of containment strong enough to preserve the arena and, more importantly, protect the audience. After all, with the kind of fighters participating today, collateral damage wasn't just a possibility, it was guaranteed. There were also 4 gigantic screens mounted high around the Colosseum, each one enchanted to display every moment of the action. The glowing panels shimmered faintly with layered optical magic, an intricate array I'd personally helped design. With a simple spell to capture and magnify visual data, the screens showed crystal clear, enlarged images of the fighters in real time. Some of the attendees who'd seen yesterday's presentation had probably realized this was an upgraded version of the projector system I'd demonstrated then. Only this time, it wasn't for a lecture, it was for spectacle. The moment the screens lit up, people gasped in awe, pointing and murmuring to one another. Exactly the kind of reaction I'd hoped for. The idea wasn't just about convenience, it was strategy. Good PR. In a place like this, every detail mattered. A smooth viewing experience, comfortable seats, and magical enhancements all made a difference. These kinds of small touches, what I used to call customer-first design, in my old world were what made an event unforgettable. From any seat, no matter how far, spectators could watch the fight in perfect detail. Whether you were in the front row or the highest balcony, the illusionary displays gave you a close-up vantage point of every strike, spell, and clash of magic. With this, I could confidently say, no one would be disappointed today. And now, the competitors began making their way toward the center of the arena. Their footsteps echoed softly across the magically reinforced stone floor, the tension in the air so thick it almost hummed. Forming a clean, disciplined line, each fighter stood proudly facing the VIP boxes we were seated in, watching from above. The colossal screens around the Colosseum flickered to life, focusing on the participants one by one. Every expression, every twitch of excitement or hint of confidence was displayed in vivid detail. You could almost feel the crowd holding its breath as the images shifted. Some fighters smirked, others bowed politely, while a few radiated an intensity that sent murmurs rippling through the audience. Each one would get their own little intro, the screens changing their viewpoints to offer a close-up view of the fighter being described. The announcer's clear, ringing voice echoed throughout the arena. It was Soka, one of Soe's Dragonute subordinates, perfectly composed and professional. She stood at the edge of the stage, her posture impeccable as she raised a hand toward the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her tone strong yet melodic, "allow me to introduce the victors of yesterday's Battle Royale rounds, our 9 qualifiers who have earned the right to stand here today." The crowd erupted into cheers, their excitement surging as Soka began reading the names. First, our most popular competitor. Soka's voice rang through the Colosseum, charged with infectious excitement. Winner of the first battle yesterday, his name is Masayuki the Haru. The crowd exploded into cheers, the sound rolling like thunder through the stands. Soka, clearly having fun with her role, pressed on with all the flair of a professional show announcer. No one has ever witnessed his graceful sword skills in person. Why, you ask? Because the moment he draws his blade, his opponent is already dead. I had to resist the urge to roll my eyes. That dramatic delivery was impressive, but the truth was a bit different. According to the reports I'd received, Masayuki hadn't even unsheathed his sword once. His so-called victories were thanks to his companions who, out of either loyalty or sheer disbelief, had taken out the other 50 contestants in his round before conceding the win to him. Still, Soka's performance was flawless. With his overwhelming force, she continued, he's become a household name, declaring himself a hero at his tender age. But what wonders will Masayuki show us today? Many are those who've been captivated by his charm, and countless women have swooned at a single glance from him. So, brace yourselves, everyone, it's time to witness the glory of our radiant hero. It's Masayuki. The stands erupted once more, yeah, a wall of cheers and whistles echoing across the arena. I could see Masayuki awkwardly wave to the audience, his smile a bit too stiff to be confident. Poor guy looked like he wanted the ground to swallow him. The next name Soka called out echoed with feral energy. Next up, the man known for his wild spirit and unyielding will, Jinrai the Mad Wolf. The crowd roared again, though this time the energy was rougher, heavier. Jinrai strode confidently into the light, his armor battered, his cloak torn at the edges, his grin sharp as a predator's. There was something rugged about him, something that screamed seasoned warrior. Even with his shabby gear, he exuded a presence that only those who'd faced death countless times could have. He raised one hand in a lazy wave, the audience answering with wild cheers. A true fighter through and through. Soka's voice rang again, smooth and animated. And following him, contestant number 3. A man whose sword moves are as elegant as flowing water. It's Gai the Flowing Swordsman. Gai stepped forward gracefully, a faint smirk playing on his lips. He had that polished adventurer look, clean gear, tidy hair, and the kind of greedy eyes that spoke of arrogance. Soka's tone shifted to dramatic poetry. They say his blade dances like a seasoned performer upon the battlefield, stealing the hearts of all who behold it. Will he show us his graceful movements today, as the blood sprays around him like crashing waves? I blinked. Whoa, hold on, blood spraying and graceful movements. That was a little dark for a morning crowd. Guy didn't have Jinrai's raw aura or strength, but there was something refined in the way he moved, each step measured, balanced. He didn't look like a brute, more like an artist with a blade. Judging by his composure and confidence, I'd peg him somewhere around A rank, depending on how much of that flowing style was actual skill and not just flair. Still, I had to admit he looked the part of a swordsman who could put on one hell of a show. The fourth and fifth contestants were familiar to me. They were the chiefs of the bovoids and the equinoids. I muttered, leaning toward Soe, who stood silently at my side. Why are they here? Soe's tone was calm, as usual. There have been rumors spreading around, Lady Rimuru. Rumors? Yes. About your offer that one of the contestants of this tournament will be named one of the big four. What? I nearly jumped from my seat. How in the world did that get out? Soe's eyes shifted faintly, like he already knew the culprit. It appears Gobta or one of his subordinates might have spoken too freely. Of course it was Gobta. Why am I not surprised? Apparently, once that little tidbit leaked, chaos followed. Every monster in Tempest who fancied themselves a warrior or wanted a shot at glory signed up overnight. There had been more than 300 participants in the Battle Royale preliminary rounds yesterday. The arena was packed, the fights were wild, and the referees barely survived the excitement. Among the chaos, the Bovoid and Equinoid chiefs had both fought their way through to the quarterfinals, beating dozens of strong opponents just to stand here today. I sighed inwardly. So that's how it is, huh? Guess I should start preparing to handle the fallout if one of them actually wins. Ciel's voice brushed gently through my mind, amused. Would you prefer I make Gobta run a few laps as punishment, master? I smirked. Tempting. Let's see how this match turns out first. The winner of the fourth preliminary, Buvix. Sokka's voice boomed across the Colosseum, and the crowd responded with a rumbling cheer that made the arena itself tremble. Ah, right, I'd named the leader of the Bovids Buvix. And, to avoid showing favoritism, I'd also named the Equinoid head Equix. It had been a simple, fair decision, or so I thought at the time. Both had been powerful tribal leaders before joining Tempest, and I figured they'd serve best as guardians of my labyrinth. In fact, I'd even suggested they take turns overseeing Floor 50, alternating to keep things interesting for challengers. They had accepted without hesitation, swearing their loyalty and faith to me. Naturally, I didn't intend to let that devotion go to waste. Of course, there was also Ciel's influence. She'd taken an interest in my naming and decided to add a little extra flavor of her own. Buvix had received the extra skill. Open black lens bracket self-regeneration close black lens bracket, a powerful ability that let him heal from nearly any wound over time. Meanwhile, Equix had acquired open black lens bracket magic interference close black lens bracket, a rare and formidable skill that weakened incoming spells around him. Both had become far stronger as a result, their new powers fitting them perfectly, one a fortress of endurance, the other an untouchable phantom. I never really asked Ciel about the details. I trusted her completely. When she gave gifts like that, it was usually part of one of her quiet experiments. Ciel only reported what was necessary. If she didn't tell me something, it meant she already had everything under control. Next, we have Buvix's eternal rival Equix. Sokka's voice thundered through the arena, amplified by magic and energy alike. They've fought for 100 years, and still their conflict continues. Will we finally see a resolution to this age-old rivalry here in the arena? Their combined powers will soon summon new winds of carnage, lashing across the entire tournament. She was really in her element now, her tone rising and falling with perfect dramatic timing. The audience was hooked. Every sentence she delivered built more tension, the crowd's cheers growing wilder by the second. Sokka paused for effect, then continued, and what's more, either Buvix or Equix will become one of the masters of the dungeon, scheduled to open in town after the tournament. A collective gasp rippled through the stands. She had them wrapped around her finger. So behold their strength today, she declared, wings flaring slightly as her voice soared across the Colosseum. And if you feel worthy of the challenge, summon your courage and plunge into the labyrinth in search of fame and fortune. I couldn't help but smile. She wasn't just enjoying herself, she was selling it. Sokka was doing an excellent job of turning the tournament into a full-blown Tempest PR campaign. Moving on, Sokka's voice boomed again, full of energy. Our sixth competitor, the mysterious masked man who displayed unbeatable strength in yesterday's battles. Under that lion mask, his true identity remains hidden. Is he a defender of justice, or a servant of evil? And how will he charm us all on the battlefield today? fit. The instant my eyes landed on Lion Mask, I nearly choked on the juice I was drinking, spraying it out in an unceremonious burst. Ren, is that? I sputtered, wiping my mouth. Ren, standing dutifully behind me as always, stepped forward with her usual composed grace. Yes, my lady, she replied softly, her tone laced with the faintest edge of disapproval. There is no mistaking him. Her gloved hand held out a napkin as she leaned closer, carefully dabbing at the corner of my lips, eyes narrowing in that quiet, maid-like glare that said, "Please behave, my lady." I stiffened slightly. Ah ha ha, right, sorry. But there was no mistaking that aura. I didn't even need magic sense to tell who that Lion Mask was. Didn't Diablo say when I asked him to referee that none of them would be a concern? I muttered under my breath. Ren's lips pressed into a thin line, trying and failing to hide a sigh. What is he, blind? I grumbled. That, or Diablo was being way overconfident. Ren didn't respond, but the slight flicker of exasperation in her eyes said she agreed completely. Ah, and I've just received a message from a certain anonymous fan, Soka continued dramatically, a mischievous glint in her eye. It says, I can't be there, but you better do your best for me. I know you know this, but don't let anyone discover your secret identity, no matter what. Good luck. She held the note high, pretending to squint at it before giving the crowd a teasing smile. Whatever could that mean? I don't know, but it sounds like a heartfelt message of support for our mysterious Lion Mask. The crowd laughed and cheered, clearly entertained, but I just sank into my seat, hand pressed against my forehead. Of course she knew. Soka knew, and she was enjoying every second of it. That little smirk she gave the camera wasn't the kind a clueless announcer would make, it was the "I know something you don't" grin of a troublemaker with inside information. Ren, I muttered quietly. Yes, my lady, she replied, already anticipating my thoughts. Did Milam contact her at some point? Ren's lips twitched, betraying a faint, almost sympathetic smile. Given the tone, it does sound like something Lady Milam would do. I sighed inwardly. Right now, according to what Milam herself told me, she was busily applying the finishing touches to the labyrinth. I'd agreed to let her focus on that, thinking it'd keep her out of trouble and, more importantly, out of my hair during the festival. But clearly, she'd found a new way to meddle with me anyway. Of course she did, I murmured, crossing my arms. Why'd I even bother expecting peace when Milam's involved? Ren gave a graceful nod. It seems peace is incompatible with Lady Milam's existence. Can't argue with that. Next up, Soka's voice boomed across the Colosseum, brimming with energy. We have the dazzling disciple of the Dragon Faithful, the shining sapphire of Milam Nava's followers, Stella the Dragonute. The crowd erupted into cheers as the screens zoomed in on a young girl stepping proudly into the spotlight. Her thin twintails shimmered under the sunlight, each strand of her blue hair catching the light like crystal. Her attire, a ceremonial blue outfit in the style of the Dragon Faithful, fluttered gently as she waved the audience. A delicate hairband crowned her head, completing the look of someone both pure and devoted and as hot-headed as Milam. Soka continued, perfectly feeding the excitement. A devout follower of the mighty destroyer, Lady Milam herself, this young warrior channels both beauty and destruction in perfect harmony. With faith as her shield and power as her sword, how will she fare against today's fierce competitors? The crowd roared louder, with several Milam fans raising handmade banners featuring the Demon Lord's face. And following her, Soka's tone shifted to something more feral, a grin spreading across her lips. Comes the fiery fang from the beast kingdom of Urizania, Foss the Fox Huntress. The moment the camera turned to her, a nervous yet confident energy filled the arena. Foss strutted forward, her red ponytail swaying behind her, fox ears perked proudly, and golden slit eyes glinting with pride. Her black athletic top and brown combat pants emphasized her agility, while her twin waist bags and suspenders gave her the air of a seasoned fighter. She's cunning, she's fast, and she's got more bite than her bark. Don't let her charming tail fool you, folks. Foss is a huntress who never lets her prey escape. The crowd cheered again, though a noticeable ripple of nervous laughter followed as Foss gave a shy wave at the camera. Soka continued, her voice riding the crest of the audience's awe. Her flames burned brighter than the sun itself, and her magic shook the very foundations of the arena. Some call her a calamity in human form, others an artist of destruction. She's beauty, she's chaos, she's Katrina the Chaos Princess. The crowd exploded into cheers. Cat Ever the performer waved with enthusiasm to the audience, a sly, confident smile tugging at her lips. I nearly spilled my drink. Thankfully, I caught it in time. The few droplets that escaped were instantly wiped from my lips by Ren, who leaned in with a professional smile and a sharp glare. Of course, I didn't even register it at first. My mind was spinning. I knew she'd be here, but seeing her like this in her adult form was something else entirely. Sure, it made sense. For battle, a mature form meant better control and reach, but still. Chaos Princess, I murmured under my breath, resting my elbow on the armrest. Really? I sighed softly, watching Kat bask in the cheers of the crowd. Guess Sokka overheard me yesterday when I was muttering about her when she was reporting about qualifiers. Sokka's voice echoed through the arena, brimming with awe and a hint of theatrical fear. Witness the woman who needs no introduction. With a single spell, she reduced half the arena to molten stone. Thankfully, our new magical reinforced flooring held strong. The audience from yesterday's match is still talking about it. The crowd erupted half in wild cheers, half in anxious murmurs. Some chanted her name in excitement, others nervously glanced at the floor beneath their seats, clearly wondering whether it might start glowing red any second. Will the arena survive her today? Sokka cried, building to a dramatic crescendo, or will the Chaos Princess burn her way straight to the finals? The screens lit up with a close-up of Kat, her heterochromatic eyes flashing with mischief as she smirked faintly, clearly relishing the reaction. The crowd went wild, the noise rising like a living storm. I couldn't help letting out a small sigh, pressing my fingers to my temple. Great, she's enjoying this way too much. Sokka's voice boomed across the arena, clear and electric with energy. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to the special entries. The strongest of the strong. The pride of Tempest itself. The crowd roared, and she paused for dramatic effect before continuing. These are the titans who serve directly under our glorious ruler, each said to possess the power of 1,000 warriors. And today, they stand before you to fight for glory and honor. If they win, they will officially claim a place among Lady Rimuru's legendary Big Four. The arena shook with cheers. Even from my seat, I could feel the vibration in the air like a heartbeat. I let out a quiet sigh, leaning back slightly. The Big Four, huh? It was a good PR move, but hearing it repeated so loudly made me feel like I was watching my own marketing campaign get out of hand. Sokka raised her hand dramatically, signaling the next introduction. And first among these Tempest Titans, he's the blade that dances faster than lightning, the sword that has felled countless foes in a single breath. The crowd went quiet for a moment as Hakuro stepped out of the tunnel, his white hair flowing slightly in the breeze. Despite his age, the old swordsman radiated the same calm, lethal presence as ever, his every step perfectly balanced, his hand resting lightly on his katana's hilt. From the moment he joined Lady Rimuru, he's trained Tempest's best warriors and carved his legend across every battlefield. Sokka declared, her voice rising with excitement. The master of the sword, Hakuro of the 1,000 strikes. The stands erupted in cheers and shouts of respect. Even some of the adventurers who'd come from abroad stood to applaud. Hakuro simply smiled faintly, bowing with quiet dignity before taking his position in the arena, the air around him sharpening like a drawn blade. Sokka grinned, clearly enjoying herself as she turned toward the next gate. And now, the elite fighter whose aloof demeanor makes all the girls go wild. The warrior captain who takes his genius in stride, Gupta. The crowd went wild, chanting his name and laughing in delight. Gupta stumbled out onto the arena floor, his expression frozen somewhere between panic and forced confidence. Aloof, I muttered under my breath, raising an eyebrow. Are you sure you're using that word right? Gupta, for his part, looked like he might faint at any moment. Even from here, I could practically hear his thoughts screaming, I'm outta here. Still, he awkwardly waved at the audience, trying to look heroic while his knees visibly trembled. And now, our next contender. Sokka's voice rose again, carrying across the roaring crowd. Sir Geld, the High Orc Savior. The guardian angel of Tempest, his iron wall defense repels all would-be attackers. The gates rumbled open, and Geld stepped out with steady, deliberate steps. His massive frame gleamed under the sunlight, the ornate armor Tempest smiths had forged for him reflecting his status as one of our strongest. The cheers this time were deeper, more respectful. Many of the monsters in the audience owed their homes, and even their lives, to Geld's efforts. Guardian Angel, huh, I mused, smiling faintly. Well, I suppose that's not wrong. And now, Sokka announced, her tone shifting to one of intrigue, we move on to the special guests personally recommended by none other than Lady Rimuru herself. A murmur rippled through the stands, excitement and curiosity spreading like wildfire. First, a mysterious woman with snow-white hair streaked in blue, her gaze as chilling as winter itself. Luna. The crowd quieted as Luna strode into the arena, her steps light yet deliberate. Her mismatched eyes, one icy blue, one pale silver, glinted beneath the sunlight. A faint, cold breeze seemed to follow her, sharp enough to make even seasoned fighters shift uncomfortably. Next, a swordswoman whose name carries whispers of legend, Shizu. A collective gasp rose as Shizu appeared, long black hair swaying gently behind her. Her golden eyes gleamed with calm confidence, her presence serene yet commanding, like a flicker of memory given form. Even from my seat, I felt a quiet sense of nostalgia stir. And finally, Soka paused dramatically, her voice dipping into near reverence. A woman cloaked in mystery, Shinsha. The moment the name left her lips, a ripple of energy swept through the arena. The air shimmered faintly as the blue-haired beauty emerged from the gate, a playful smile on her lips as she waved enthusiastically at the cheering crowd. She's enjoying this way too much, I muttered under my breath. Ren sighed softly beside me, ever the picture of composure. Like mother, like daughter, my lady. I blinked. Ren, she smiled faintly, eyes glimmering with restrained amusement. Just stating facts. As you've probably realized by now, those women were my daughters. I only asked them to join the tournament to surprise Kat, but I never thought they'd actually use their adult forms. Since I didn't want anyone recognizing them, I told them to disguise themselves, but I wasn't expecting that kind of disguise. It worked perfectly for Luna. She looked completely different, and no one could have connected her to me. But Shizu and Shinsha, that was another story. Shizu, in particular, was a problem. She closely resembled Shizu Izawa, the hero that people here knew very well. Luckily, there were a few key differences. Her eyes, unlike the original Shizu's brown, were a radiant gold, and the aura she gave off was completely different. With those distinctions, most people would probably chalk it up to a strange coincidence. As for Shinsha, well, she looked very much like me. The short hair and her crimson eyes helped a little, but if anyone really looked closely, it wouldn't take a genius to notice the resemblance. Luckily, they'll be heading back once the festival ends, so it shouldn't cause much of a problem. Besides, we've already accomplished our main goal, surprising Kat. And judging by her face right now, I'd say mission accomplished. Her expression was absolutely priceless, eyes wide, jaw dropped, completely frozen in shock. It took her a few seconds to regain her composure, but once she did, that familiar spark lit up in her eyes. A smile crept across her face, one that said she wasn't just surprised, she was excited. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Soka's voice rose, resonant and commanding, with the warm-up acts introduced and the stage truly set, it's time to present to you the star performer of this grand spectacle, Lady Seal. A hush fell over the crowd as her words echoed through the Colosseum. Personal maid and right hand of Lady Rimuru herself. The one who stands closest to our beloved ruler, second to none save Lady Rimuru. The gates opened, and Seal stepped into the arena. She wore her signature black and white maid uniform, pristine and elegant, every movement measured with quiet precision. A white mask concealed her face, lending her an aura of mystery that only amplified the tension in the air. The audience collectively leaned forward, some whispering in awe, others in curiosity. Whoa there, Soka, did you just call everyone up to now the warm-up acts? I sighed inwardly. She really had no breaks once she got going. Now we have all 16 competitors in the ring. Who's going to reign supreme? The fateful moment is about to arrive. Oops. If she was done introducing everyone, that meant it was my turn to step up and say a few opening words. I might have completely forgotten about that part. Rigurd was busy attending to the dignitaries. So I left Benimaru in charge of their protection, with Soe keeping watch over the entire arena. That left me to handle this personally. I rose from my seat, smoothing my gown, and with all the calm and grace befitting a queen, activated Dominate Space to connect a path from the VIP seats to the main arena. When I passed through to the other side with Ren, the cheers hit like a wave. RAAAAAAAHHHH. The audience erupted, voices from Tempest and beyond blending into a single roar of awe and excitement. I kept my expression serene, my posture perfect. If I was to be the image of a ruler, then I would be it. Ren followed close behind, quiet as a shadow, ever the picture of composure. I knew full well she was mentally noting every little flaw in my presentation, ready to hand me a detailed report and probably a lecture later. Which, of course, meant I had to make absolutely sure there wasn't a single one. Taking the mic from Soka, I turned toward the 16 fighters assembled before me. Their eyes were sharp, spirits burning, and even from here I could feel the intensity radiating off the stage. Fighters, I began, my voice carrying easily through the magically amplified mic, calm yet commanding, those who endure to the very end, and claim victory in the final round, shall be granted the glory and recognition of my nation Tempest itself. A soft murmur rippled through the crowd, anticipation swelling like a living thing. I took a slow, deliberate step forward, letting the faint glimmer of my aura ripple across the stage. And now, I continued, a faint smile curving my lips, allow me to offer a few words to each of you. My gaze fell first upon Masayuki. Masayuki the hero, I said, pausing long enough for the audience to hush, should you prevail, I shall extend to you the honor of challenging me directly. The crowd gasped, thrilled by the prospect. Masayuki, however, looked as though I'd just sentenced him to death by paperwork. The forced smile, the subtle twitch in his eyebrow, yes, that was definitely a, please no, face. Internally, I sighed, really, he looks more ready to faint than to fight. I almost feel bad for him. My eyes drifted toward his companion. And you, are, Mad Wolf, Jinrai, are you not? Soka, ever efficient, moved in with another mic. Jinrai blinked, clearly caught off guard. Oh, I wasn't expecting you to talk to me, too, he said, scratching his head. I've only got one goal, really to support Masayuki. Sorry, but there's no way I'm gonna be champion. But hey, I'm sure the hero here's gonna take you down for us. The audience laughed, and I couldn't help the small, amused smile tugging at my lips. Very well, I said, inclining my head slightly toward him, my tone calm yet resolute. In recognition of your spirit and sportsmanship, regardless of the outcome, I shall have a new weapon and armor set crafted for you. Consider it a token of my respect for a warrior who stands proud, even in the face of impossible odds. The crowd reacted with approving murmurs, and I could sense the faint flicker of pride in Jinrai's expression. HMPH. Well, if you're given, I'm talkin', but don't think you can win me over with bribery, okay? He shot back with a defiant grin, handing the mic back to Soka. I allowed myself a quiet chuckle. Duly noted, I replied, amused by his honesty. Such spirit, I rather like that. A warrior with pride but not arrogance refreshing. He had a touch of sass, yes, but that only proved my gesture had reached him. He wouldn't have accepted otherwise. Next, I turned my gaze toward the man known as Gai the Flowing Swordsman. His posture was confident, no, conceited, his hand resting idly on the hilt of his blade as if he already stood victorious. Before I could speak, he took a step forward, a smirk tugging at his lips. Demon Lord, he declared boldly, I am far more powerful than that so-called hero over there. If I win this tournament, you'll fight me yourself, won't you? ... How delightfully presumptuous. I blinked once, more in amusement than offense. That came out of nowhere, I thought, debating whether to answer or simply laugh it off. But before I could open my mouth, that came a silken, dangerously calm voice, as quite rude to Lady Rimuru. Diablo, standing at the edge of the arena, had taken a single step forward. His eyes gleamed faintly as his usual polite smile twisted into something far colder. If you are so insistent, then allow me to indulge you instead. Should you emerge as champion, I will gladly engage you in battle, and should you survive me, I shall make the request to Lady Rimuru personally. The arena fell silent, the very air trembling beneath Diablo's gentle tone. Gai, for all his arrogance, instinctively tensed, his smile faltering for just an instant before he forced it back into place. Well, that works too, he said, though his bravado didn't sound quite as steady anymore. I allowed a graceful smile. At the moment, I said evenly, I have already made a personal promise to the hero. However, if anyone else here wishes to challenge me, then defeat one of my big four first. Should you accomplish that, I will gladly grant your request. I let my gaze linger on Gai a moment longer, soft yet unmistakably sharp. Until then, I suggest you focus less on pride and more on victory. I turned my gaze toward Bavix and Equix, their towering forms already kneeling in perfect unison before me. Their reverence was palpable, their voices heavy with tension and pride. I expect great things from you both, I said, my tone calm yet edged with quiet command. Even if victory eludes you in this arena, remember your true duty lies beyond this stage. You are the rulers of your domain within the labyrinth. Do not disappoint us. It might have sounded like a threat to the untrained ear, but I simply could not have a labyrinth guardian showing weakness in public. They were free to lose so long as they fought with the dignity befitting my name. Vivek struck his chest with a heavy fist, voice booming with conviction. Yes, my lady, by the name you have bestowed upon me, I, Vivek, swear upon my strength I shall not tarnish your honor. I will give everything I have in this battle. Equix followed, his tone smoother but no less fervent. And I, Equix, vow to uphold your glory, Lady Rimuru. As warriors of this great nation, we will bring prestige to Tempest through our every strike. I allowed a faint, approving smile to grace my lips. Good, see that you do. Win or lose, your resolve will echo through the dungeon, and that alone will be enough to make me proud. The two bowed their heads deeply, the weight of my words settling on them like a sacred vow. It was satisfying, really seeing them embody the pride of Tempest so earnestly. And that brings us to this one. Sir Lion Mask, do try not to be too reckless up here, won't you? I said, my tone smooth but measured. Whoa, that's all you got for me? Be serious. I am serious. So, yeah. Honestly, there wasn't much else I could say. Asking him to withdraw or wishing him good luck would both feel weird. I'd cheer for him depending on who he got matched against, but if he drew Seal of all people, that'd be a nightmare. Geld would have been the perfect matchup for him, but I wasn't about to rely on that kind of miracle. If his identity got exposed in the middle of all this, it'd shake people's confidence in Tempest, and that'd be a massive waste. In the end, all I could do was hope the luck of the draw was on his side. Onward, Gobta, great job, making it this far. I didn't. I just know you can win this. I believe in you. I gave him the best pep talk I could, completely ignoring his attempt to explain. There was no escape for him now. I was sure he'd give it his all, well, his Gobta level all, at least. Next was Geld. Geld, you're a strong orc. I want you to use that strength to its fullest in this tournament. Then my voice softened, but don't push yourself too much, all right? He had a habit of overworking himself, so I figured a warning was in order. Yes, Lady Rimuru, he replied at once, his voice steady and full of resolve. I nodded, satisfied. I expected great things from him. Wish I heard some of that from you, Gobta muttered, but I decided to ignore him. Geld was the strong, silent type. Our conversation ended there, and the rest, I was sure, he'd express with his actions. Next was Kat. To everyone else, she was just another fighter in the tournament. But to me, she was my daughter. Still, I couldn't show favoritism here, so I treated her the same as the others. Katarina, I began, keeping my tone formal yet gentle, show everyone what you're capable of and enjoy yourself while you're at it. She gave a confident nod, a spark of determination flickering in her eyes. Then, with a faint smile, I added, if you win this, I'll grant you anything you ask for so long as it's within my power. Her expression softened, and she whispered, then, don't punish me if I end up doing something I shouldn't have. I chuckled quietly, lowering the mic from my lips. Leaning in just enough for only her to hear, I murmured, oh, that's a difficult request. I'll think about it. She pouted at my vague answer, lips pursed in mock annoyance. Of course, I ignored her. If she didn't want to be punished, she simply shouldn't cause trouble in the first place. Next was Hakuro. The old master stood before me, his posture straight as ever despite his age. His calm yet piercing gaze carried the respect of a loyal retainer and the quiet pride of a teacher watching his pupils surpass him. Hakuro, I greeted, allowing a composed smile to grace my lips. I trust you intend to demonstrate the true essence of swordsmanship to all who watch today. He bowed deeply, his voice steady and humble. It shall be as you command, my lady. I will carve your glory into their hearts with every strike. A soft chuckle escaped me. Do not go overboard, old friend. We wouldn't want the other participants to lose their will to fight before the finals. He laughed, a low and knowing sound. If they lose against an old man like me, then they have no right to call themselves warriors. The calm confidence in his words was enough. With Hakuro, no further instruction was needed. His blade would speak far more eloquently than words ever could. I continued down the line, Foss, Stella, Shizu, Shinsha, and Luna offering each a few words of encouragement. Each received the same promise, win, and I will grant you one request within my power. Their eyes burned with determination, each for their own reason, each carrying a dream that drove them forward. And then, I stood before her. Seal. The crowd hushed as if the very air had turned sacred. Her mere presence commanded silence. The immaculate black and white of her maid uniform, the elegant mask that veiled her face, and the quiet grace that radiated from her every movement. The space between us trembled with something unspoken, an awareness only we could share. Seal, I said at last, my voice soft yet effortlessly clear, each word laced with authority and warmth. Do you have any request of me? Should you emerge victorious, I will grant it so long as it lies within my power. Sokka stepped forward, holding out a microphone with a hint of hesitation almost as if she too sensed that this exchange would be unlike the others. Seal accepted it gracefully, her gloved hand steady. For a brief moment, she turned her masked face toward me, and though no expression could be seen, I could feel her gaze calm, unwavering, and filled with quiet conviction. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft and melodic, yet it carried easily through the silent Colosseum. If I win this tournament, she began, pausing just long enough for the anticipation to build, would you grant me permission to become your bride? The world seemed to stop. Even the wind held its breath. I blinked once, maintaining my poise despite the shock rippling through the stands. Whispers erupted from the audience like a tidal wave, only to die out again under the sheer weight of my presence. Slowly, I allowed a small, knowing smile to form. That, I said, my tone light yet commanding, is quite the request, Seal. But very well, if you win, I shall consider it. Her answer was simple, a graceful bow. Then I shall fight with everything I am. Sokka, frozen for several seconds, managed to whisper. Did she just propose to Lady Rimuru? And just like that, the arena exploded with gasps and cheers, the energy electrified beyond measure. To be continued.